right. Everybody here connected, everything?
Yep.
And 4.
All set?
Take a look at what the applications you sent out, John. So one of these and one that's actually not listed also we've seen before. John Casey and one from last month. It was Jack Segrist for Chesson. That was an application for a new deck that didn't disturb enough to meet planning board or to have go to the planning board, but did need a setback for variance. It was just unclear what the setback would be because they didn't have the mean high water mark delineated. My understanding with the Chesson one is that they're trying to get that to us by Friday on the response to the PRC comments. And then if they do address everything that we asked for at the last meeting, then it would be referred out and be on the zoning board for January 19th.
Eric, do you know the number on that, the CPN number?
Yeah, that is CPN 20-084.
Okey doke, I'll put that back on.
Okay, thanks, Jim. John Case reached out to us, says that he is working to do the same. We sent him comments, this was back in April, based on a sketch plan that he needed, I'm pulling up right now. This is what was submitted back then. That he needed to essentially provide us an existing conditions plan about what's there today, the work being proposed, that it's in compliance with the DEC and that the DEC has issued a permit for the work. That initiated a whole bunch of stuff, and Chris, maybe you can give a back and forth of what's going on at the DEC, but it sounds like there's some sort of resolution between those two parties, and he's going to make application corrected.
So that's the thing. I would request that however the planning board, zoning board acts on this, that they make it contingent on, I can't issue a permit until they have a DEC permit that matches this, because he applied for this through the DEC way back when, and it was denied, saying there was too much fill in the lake and stuff. So he pulled it all back, did the plan last time, got that approved and everything like that, and then went along and did this anyways in violation of the DEC permit and the town's plans and stuff. We did violations. So right now there's meetings between him and the DEC. Neither party will tell us what happened in those meetings, what the order to remedy was from the DEC. So all I would like is just contingent. I can't issue a permit unless he has something from the DEC saying it's okay.
Just to be clear, do you guys have any of the correspondences today from him and DEC?
So the DEC turned it over to their legal staff. I did submit a Freedom of Information request, but haven't received any of that. He has an order from the DEC. They told me they did send him an order, but I do not have a copy of it, and he will not share it.
Good. So we're not sure if DEC is requiring any changes to the plans that we're looking at right now.
I'm unaware. When I spoke to the environmental biologist, she said they were going to have him pull back the entire site back to the original and allow him to keep some of the stone around the tree. That was the last I heard from him, as far as, because then they transferred it over to legal, because I believe he got his legal involved.
So Eric, if we're not sure if DEC is going to require changes to this plan / application, does it make sense to bring them to the ZBA to get a variance that he may ultimately have to go back and get a new one because of the changes DEC requires of him?
See, the DEC might say whatever the town will approve, we'll approve. So I'd like to kind of try to just stay away from DEC and just say contingent on whatever the DEC approves.
Okay. And then if there's any changes that the DC does come up, ultimately it null and voids his plan and we go back through the process.
Exactly.
Didn't he also have some issues up on the road frontage with the county?
So he did install a lift within the public right of way, which whether it be county or not, it's just a violation of building code. So on his new plan, that'll have to be outside of the red line.
And that was one of the comments from our PRC minutes earlier.
Yep. So there will be a new plan.
Yep.
Okay. And he's decided to piecemeal this, do ZBA first, see how successful he is there, and then depending how that goes, then go to the planning board.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
Wow, that was back in May. Some times were good.
that's probably our first virtual PRC. Yeah, so should have plans on Friday, he says. And we'll make sure that it meets our comments.
I was gonna say, if it doesn't meet our comments and has all the required plans and stuff, are we gonna say it's an incomplete application and not move it forward kind of thing?
Yeah.
I think that's what we did before.
That's right.
That's why it's been on hold. Okay. Just make sure he's got his I's dotted.
The next one was Marcelo Batisti on Sandy Beach Drive. He was denied a variance request, as it says, on November 17th. He was requesting at the time lot coverage and front setback variance from Sandy Beach Drive. He resubmitted a plan to us. I'm going to pull it up right now. That eliminates the need for a lot coverage variance, but still requires a front setback variance. I have to make a determination about whether this is a substantially similar application to the other one. The planning board can't hear a substantially similar one unless they grant a request for rehearing. So we'll have to make that determination about whether it's substantially similar. But
Eric, on that, I thought that a request like that goes to the zoning board. I'm actually just pulling it up right now. I don't think staff makes a determination on that. I thought the zoning board made a determination on that.
if it's a request for rehearing, the zoning board does. I don't think it's clear in that section of code who makes the determination about its substantial similarity to previous plans. So it's this part right here.
Yeah, but it says unless the board shall find and determine that the condition change conditions. So I think it's the board. I don't think you make that determination. I think they submit whatever to the board and the board makes that decision whether or not it's substantially and whether or not they would rehear it.
I read that as saying that they can't hold a hearing. They shall refuse to hold further hearings if it's substantially similar to that application that they previously heard. If it's not, so except when they grant a rehearing. So if it's the same application, then they can grant the rehearing. If it's not the same application, then they can hear it within 1 year.
I think I agree with Doug that it's the board who determines from the information supplied whether it's the conditions are changed enough and a reconsideration is justified.
I know
Okay,
in the
so no-
past, I know in the past, that's what we've done. Because we've had some of those situations where what I did was I kicked the information directly to the zoning board. And then they made the determination whether or not that it was substantially different and that they would rehear it, or whether or not it was still dead for the year.
Okay. Can I, well, does it need to be public hearing to do that? Like, so could I, they meet tomorrow, I guess, right?
No, so I can tell you, Eric, and I know this came up before. I mean, it may have even been John Casey. I don't remember, but I know that when I was the director of development, this came up, and I just put it under other board business. There's no public hearing, and so it's a long process, because if the board determines that yes, it is substantially and that they would hear it, then it goes on the next month's agenda for all the traditional. But just I put it under other board business for the board to determine whether or not that it was substantially different or not.
Yeah, I just opened up town law, section 267, and it says the zoning board of appeal can hold a rehearing to review whether to make that determination.
And I think we got to make sure that last sentence states such rehearing may be granted only upon a unanimous vote. So I
Right.
think we know that already, but just pointing that out.
Okay, that's fine. Then we'll take it to the zoning board for them to make a determination about whether it's substantially similar. If they feel that it is, they will have to, well, then the applicant can bring it before them and request that they rehear it. The board would have to make a motion and approve it unanimously, and then it would be reheard at the next month's meeting, so earliest February, if it's a rehearing.
Also, this project is the one that I've been going back and forth with the owner as far as the flood elevation. I don't know if you can pop up the elevation plans. If you look at the first floor elevation on both the existing and new, it is like 692.5, which isn't 2 feet above the floodplain of the lake. They're doing substantial modifications to the existing building, and they're adding an addition, so both would have to be elevated 2 feet above the floodplain. We've been going back and forth about it. He was saying, well, I'm only doing $195,000 worth of work, and the property is worth 600, 700,000. Well, the house is only worth 110,000. The property is what's of value. So anytime you do over 50% modification, rehabilitation, substantial improvement of an existing structure, you had to raise it 2 feet above the floodplain. So I made that determination. I told them we probably couldn't even look at the plans and stuff like that unless they met code. So hopefully by Friday, they'll be resubmitting and revising the plans. As far as renovations, because it meets that 50%, they did gut the entire down to the 2x4s of the existing structure. No permits been issued as of yet for any construction or anything. So they are doing substantial work to the existing structure.
Chris, in order to make that accommodation, is it possible that their request, for the variances could change?
Well, the plan would change as far as the elevation, and we base our variances based on elevations plans and make it specific to plans. They might have to change things. They might have to change grading. They might have to elevate things. I don't know how they're gonna. The existing structure has to go up about 1/2 foot to 6 inches, and then I don't know. The funny thing is Eric, can you look in the property directory for this one? I have photos from when they elevated it probably 10 years ago, and they actually did it incorrectly and didn't elevate it tall enough above out of the floodplain. They totally redid the foundation and everything of this structure. And
It's a shame.
didn't do it correctly and didn't elevate it enough.
6 more inches, huh?
Yep.
Jeez.
Bad?
Wow, that's a shame.
But
That's a
I
shame.
think to your question, Lance, if they raise it, they should be fine, still avoiding a need for a height variance.
Right, and it shouldn't require them to increase impervious surface or lot coverage that we're aware of, and it shouldn't change their setbacks. So no, I just wanted to make sure we're clear.
They
with that.
shouldn't change any of that stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
But we
So-
do have an elevation certificate from Venenzia that shows what the elevation of the finished floor of the existing structure is.
This will follow a similar process as it did last time, except, it got denied by the zoning board. So it'll go to the zoning board, well, for them to potentially grant a rehearing request. If they don't, and they find that it's substantially similar and they don't request a rehearing or allow the rehearing, then the application is off for a year, essentially. If for some reason they do and they grant the variance for the front setback, then it'll be before the planning board. The date at this point is not clear until we get some guidance from the zoning board.
What did they do to get under the lot coverage?
They removed a lot of this gravel driveway area.
And they're gonna plant it, reseed it? Or...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, anybody have any other questions on this one?
Nope. I think that as long as the PRC minutes can reflect what Chris's concerns about raising the house are, so that if they do make it through the ZBA process, which then puts them in front of the planning board February, March timeframe, that before we see them in the planning board level, those plans get revised to depict exactly what Chris is asking for them to depict. So that it doesn't have to be a condition, which could then change the plans, which then could result in other changes that we're not aware of. So that's only if it makes it through the ZBA process, I would make the suggestion.
Okay. Next up, Fletcher on County Road 32.
Any relation?
I don't know.
Did you?
Well, I thought Jim's not from here originally, is it?
I don't know. I just thought it might be the old homestead. Oh yeah. The spear. Head of the spear.
So this very large piece of property right here. It's pretty much right on the border with Bristol. In fact, I think part of their property runs over. You'll see the owner listed as Eleanor Fletcher. She passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
So this gentleman, the applicant, is, I believe, the executor of the estate. And they're subdividing this parcel into two pieces. So that one son would have the house site, I believe this one, and then the other son would have this large portion on the other side of County Road 32.
Hmm.
As with all these recently, I'll go through the checklist and make sure that the items are addressed, get them back to you guys. But conceptually, do you guys have questions on this one?
So the current parcel is one parcel that traverses County Route 32. And I guess they want to essentially use the right of way of County Route 32 as the dividing line. Are they creating two new property lines or either side of 32, or how's that work?
Yeah, just the road as a divider, essentially.
Do they show the large parcel on the subdivision map?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think we need meets and bounds and stuff like that for the larger parcel as well. That's a tax map.
Yeah, I'll note that on the checklist.
Like even if they put something in this the blank upper corner and put numbers and then put a chart for the meets and bounds, just something so they have one map that shows both properties kind of thing.
You want to drill down the lot one again, or the smaller lot? Okay, was it on? They have a septic system. Well, what do they have out there? I guess nothing's going to change.
I'm sure they got it.
No,
Yeah.
they show the locations of the approximate septic system and this, there you go. The leach field and the wells up by the road and stuff.
Okay.
So I just zoomed, yeah, right there. That house, there's a two-story house that's the line between Canandaigua and Bristol goes through the house.
Yeah.
So obviously it's pre-existing non-conforming, but are we going to need to have them document something associated with the subdivision for that? Because that'll be the rear property line of this new parcel.
It's the property line of the existing parcel. It's nothing's really changing. There's no increase in the degree of non-conformance, so nothing's really changing on that parcel.
Right, but what I'm saying is that will be the new, right, and still, but it's still pre-existing non-conforming, right? Should there be a certificate or something issued associated with this? Just and have it documented? I'm just wondering.
Certainly do a certificate for me. That's no problem.
And you've got two houses on that property?
1.5.
And again, it's just pre-existing non-conforming. I mean, obviously we wouldn't do that, but
Yeah, well, that's where the road used to run, right? It was back here.
Ran right by the house. Yeah. Well, the estate owns the property to the west, right? Also, I think it showed.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. No. 6 acres. Yeah. 6.5.
Doug, I had sent you an email on this one too a while back, or not a while back, when I first met with him maybe 2 weeks ago. You know, this one being 260 acres, and it's very highly rated on the open space plan.
Mhm.
Gentleman who I was talking to, which is actually the guy who would be the owner of this parcel, said that his brother might be interested in selling development rights or something to that effect on the larger one.
Mhm.
I don't know if you wanted to reach out to him, but he didn't say, yes, we really want to do it, but he was interested in talking about it.
Well, the whole PDR program is kind of on hold right now with the state, but hoping that it picks back up again. So.
Yeah. So, again, to work through the checklist on this one. Is there anything else that jumps out to you guys?
Lance, is there a seeker on this?
Unlisted action under seeker for subdivision purposes.
Okay, thanks. And it needs a public hearing because it's a subdivision?
Yep.
Yep.
And then Eric, you'll do the referrals sheet and send it out?
Yeah. It should be exempt from county referral for 2 lots that meet the applicable zoning requirements.
It's on a county road, right?
Yeah, but that's the exemption essentially. It meets the triggers to go, and then they have like 13 exemptions, and the exemption for this one would be that it's subdivision into 2 lots that meet the applicable requirements. Do you want it on the 12th or the 26th?
We can do it on the 12th since, well, if you don't need the county review, then it can be done on the 12th.
Okay, got it.
Shouldn't somebody from the county though look at this regarding County Route 32 in terms of any additional right of way they may want that reserved or anything? I just think someone, either the Public Works or Planning, should get a peek at this.
You can send it to the DPW.
Yeah, why don't you send it to Bill? Yeah.
No problem. And then it will also go to the town of Bristol. Last application. Matt Schwam. He's on Bedford Drive, and he's proposing an addition to his house.
It's quite an addition.
It's good size. But with a walkway in between, and then essentially living space there. The setback
So, yeah.
required.
Sorry, they were trying to build a play place and a school area and stuff for their kids because of the whole homeschooling, and they don't have much room in their house, so they're looking for a setback from the required setback. And they didn't want to go with an accessory structure because they want to heat and cool it and make it livable for their kids to go out there.
They're required to have a 25-foot setback, but they're requesting to 15, which is what it would be if it was a detached accessory building. So I was wondering, or my request for the applicant, hopefully we can put in the PRC minutes as appropriate, to provide a recent survey of the property. I believe they purchased it in the last couple of years, so hopefully they can accommodate that. Architectural plans or rendering of how it would look. Request the applicant provide information about how their proposed setbacks relates to other properties in the neighborhood. Is it similar? It's not something that he necessarily has to address at PRC, but I'd be curious to know if he's talked to the neighbors about the project and to see if they're in support of it.
The house next door looks pretty close.
It does.
I would agree.
And then,
In the property folder, I did stick the as-built of not the project
Oh.
folder, but the property folder.
okay, cool. And then, whether or not the variance request is minimized. It's certainly a question that's going to come up before the zoning board. It's something that I want him to consider and address as appropriate.
Is that 6x6 area a breezeway, or is it actually enclosed?
It's an enclosed, conditioned breezeway mudroom kind of thing.
Okay. Bathroom.
And that's the issue. I mean, with our code, you can't have a conditioned habitable accessory structure, and they could build the accessory structure there, no problem with the 15-foot setback. But once they want to heat it and cool it, it's got to be part of the main dwelling, or they'd have to go for like a use variance to have another habitable structure. So this was their solution: is just connect it, heat it, cool it, and it's part of the primary dwelling. If they got rid of that 6x6 breezeway, it would meet all the requirements of code as far as setbacks and location and everything.
Then they'd have to go outside to get into it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they couldn't make it habitable because of our code says no habitable accessory structures.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
So this
they-
is kind of their hope to put that little breezeway in there, make it part of the primary. I mean, they could get the 20 by 40. Anyway, yeah. Truth comes down to it. They could build a 20 by 40 accessory structure, unheated, unconditioned, and then come back and connect it to the house. But that's a whole nother different way to do it.
Some merits for being up front, right?
Yep. It'll all depend how they get along with the neighbors.
He's a very friendly guy. I'm sure he gets along with them.
Okay.
So I just gave my requested changes for PRC, tentatively be on the January 19th meeting. There probably won't be a ton of referrals for this one. Single variance, unrelated to site plan approval. Doesn't need county referral for that reason. So.
Lance, variances are type 2?
Typically, yes.
Okay, thanks.
With that said, that's our last application. Does anybody have anything else?
I moved the Bedford Drive as-built into the project directory.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, and then I'll add the CPN 20084, the SideCrest, to the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Eric, two applications that are hanging on the FTP site. The Thomas Road, Venezia, where is he with that?
I think. Oh, so this is just the subdivision. You're not the MUO stuff.
No,
Just
well, that's the other thing then is where's he with the MUO? But yeah, subdivision first.
He was telling us he was going to make application for that subdivision this month. Essentially,
You found it incomplete, right?
what's that?
You had found it incomplete.
Right, because that violation hasn't been addressed. And that's what he had been working on doing. I had thought that he had reached an agreement with that property owner, Mark Henderson, to do like a lot line adjustment or a subdivision. I think a lot line adjustment, but we haven't received anything for it at this point. Now, I've been talking to Mark and Lori Henderson as well as Rocco about it, and it both parties seemed like they had reached an agreement. Both parties expressed to me that they had, but I haven't received anything to correct it.
Okay. Well, I guess right now it's February before, the earliest before, well, the end of January, it could be.
Potentially.
Yeah.
If they go with a lot line adjustment, it's something that just needs administrative approval. They could probably get on in January. But if they needed subdivision or variance, they'd have to kind of wait till the next deadline.
Okay. In the MUO, that's, he's, I guess he's in design for at least that section along Airport.
Yeah. I think that these two houses on Thomas Road were actually kind of like the first part of that he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that partly slowed him down. He did make a request that the town board extend that. It's not really an approval, but that request to seek site plan approval another 180 days as the town code allows. That'll be on the town board's agenda for this month. They didn't provide any details really as far as why the request was needed,
Okay.
and I can't really say. I haven't heard.
All right, just trying to stay out ahead of that because it'll wind up becoming a fire drill at some point, I guess, as usual.
Yep. We did receive another request for MUO rezoning. Doug, did you see my emails this morning? And is it still going to January?
If you can get it to me before noon, Eric, I can make it. But we're finishing up the resolutions and stuff right now. There's about 60 resolutions this month.
Okay, it should be done already. I'll send it to you.
61.
So there was another application for rezoning. It was on County Road 28. I'll pull it up real quick. So this piece right here, south of Parkside Drive, and they're proposing 4 townhouse buildings, but I believe we're up. Provide some architectural plans as well.
Who's the applicant?
Jeez.
His name is Nick Bossert.
Okay. And current zoning is?
R120 and R130.
Okay. And they'd have to go to what? To build a townhouse?
They're MUO.
MUO? Okay.
So if this goes before the town board, it'll follow the process you're all familiar with. Come to the planning board for a report, or going to back to the town board for their decision about whether or not it can continue forward.
I'm just looking at it. Looks like everything is there. Lance, when you get a chance, they're doing a full EAF is what they've submitted. Can you take a look at that for us? And then we're going to need to just go through that because as part, I think, have we done that in the past? Just somebody refresh my memory because the town board also has to do seeker. Did we leave it so the planning board is doing the full and the town board is just doing type 2 because of the local law? Did we separate seeker? Can somebody remind me?
Sure. So on the full EAF, what you would do is you would still submit a full EAF, and there's a legislation section of the EAF that can be triggered. And so if we're just doing rezoning aspect, then what would happen is that part would be filled out. It skips all of the part one and goes to the end. You sign it, and then the board just does their typical part two, part three of that full EAF. And then when it goes to the planning board would conduct a more thorough evaluation of the seeker process.
Hey, Lance,
Yes.
is a 14-foot wide driveway? I mean, that seems kind of thin for two cars passing each other.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that
yeah,
meets the requirements.
No, I don't
I
think
thought
so
that was in
either.
our site plan standards. Not a dedicated driveway.
A non-dedicated driveway is allowed to be. I'd have to look at it. I'd have to look at fire code and everything else just to make sure. I'm not, but it does seem a
It
little bit
seems
light.
rather skinny.
Imagine the county might want to clear out here, but
Yeah, I just think for fire apparatus reasons to get to the back, you may have to have some other ability, being townhouses as opposed to single family residential.
Yeah, I'll look it up because I think if it's more than one, it has to be 22 or 24.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug, does that seeker thought process make sense to you?
Yeah, that's fine. I just couldn't
Okay.
remember what we've done in the
Yeah.
past, to be honest, but that's fine. That's
On
fine.
the Marks one, I can't recall the applicant's name by the hammocks. That's what we did. We did a full AF. We triggered the legislation portion, and then it started to go through the process, and we stopped it all. But that's essentially what we were going to do with that.
All right, that's
this
fine.
one will be a little bit. I was going to say this would be a little bit different in that the MUO requires that the planning board make their decision before the town board.
Right.
Where the Metros one, they had to kind of make their decision before the planning board.
Right, but being that there's two different actions still being taken, one by the town board, one by the planning board, we would still have to conduct it one way or another.
Just makes it clear. I know the question was when the town board was doing their rezoning for Metros, is like, okay, we don't know the exact impacts of.
Right. We split it then for that reason.
We're going
Right.
to have that plan.
Right. So this is more like what we did for the Creekview Apartments, the MUO process. where-
Right.
Versus a full-blown rezoning. Hey, just keep in mind as you're reviewing this too, I know the Planning Public Works, and Chuck, I know you're on top of that, but I think they're going to start looking at County Road 28 next. And then I know there's also been requests for sidewalks down through this area too. So if you could just keep in mind.
So yeah, minimum width could be 20 to 24 feet.
What does that mean? Is it like at the discretion of the planning board or something?
No, it depends on the length of it. If it's over 500 or 501, it goes to like 26 feet or 24 feet. 501 to 750 feet, it goes to 26 feet, and yeah.
Probably over 5. All right, well, that design stuff we can include in the planning board report if we want, or leave it for a more technical one, they make application. Or if you
Yeah,
wanna just
later
send-
down the road.
I guess as long as they're at least aware of that possibility, in case it changes anything from their standpoint.
But I just wanted to bring that before you guys. Give a heads up that it's coming your way. I think that's it, though.
I have one. I got word from Hopewell last week that the Janeco parcel project that we met, I don't know, a couple months ago to discuss potential projects, and one of which was a Janeco project that kind of was in the town of Canandaigua, but also had a backside parcel in the town of Hopewell. Anyhow, that portion has been submitted to the town of Hopewell. We anticipate beginning that review in January. I haven't formally received anything for review, but I did see their application submittal.
So I can also just piggyback on that, Lance, just so everybody's aware. So on the Canandaigua portion, I've had a couple conversations with Dave. There's a lot of frustration coming from developers right now with county DPW and county sewer. So I know that we've been trying to schedule now for a while. The town supervisor and I have a meeting with county DPW here coming up, actually, I believe this week. Can you hang on just a quick second for me? Coming up, I believe this week, where we're going to go through some of these applications and hopefully help light a fire under them a little bit. But
Yeah, yeah.
To that effect too, that Foxwoods 5B3 has been kind of hanging out for a while, waiting for the county to review it. And he's been waiting for the city of Canandaigua to tell him it's okay, whatever, and it's been at the city's attorney's office to kind of handle. And it sounds like there's some sort of resolution, but the town board or the town has to accept certain liabilities, I guess, for crossing the easement for water in the road. Same with the county sewer, but it didn't seem like it was terribly extensive. We just got to review it.
Sure. What section is 3 off of? Remind me, is that section 2 or section 1?
It's behind section 2, so it's on the cross circle.
Gotcha. So section 2, if you guys recall, we conditioned, I think, the amended 1 and 3 to be dedicated, to go through the dedication process, of which we got confirmation from Fletcher that we were ready to go. Essentially, what we're waiting for is record drawings to be provided. And at our meeting, when they got their approval, I don't remember when exactly that date was, August, it was identified that they were working on those plans, of which we have not yet received. So I know the conditions help us. I'm just pointing out that's something that we should be tracking going forward, as we really are in a position to really eliminate the concerns of that road and to get it dedicated, and let's move this along. I believe we have what we need. It's just the record drawings we're waiting for.
Send an email to the Venezia team. Let them know that we're waiting for dedication of that stuff.
I think they owe us a maintenance bond too, which is maybe the other reason why they haven't done that yet.
They're behind on a lot of stuff right now, it seems like.
But again, I believe the planning board, I believe the planning board and us conditioned all those items as part of those approvals.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and he was anxious to get going because I think he had Gerber waiting the wings to start building on the lots.
Gerber is ready to go.
Yep. Has ground's been broken on all four lots except for Anthony's down on the other stub, right? Or
Chris, do you know?
Chris?
I believe at least 3 of them.
What's up?
On 5B1, has ground been broken on all those?
There's foundations for homes and stuff, yeah.
Except for Anthony's.
He's probably been clearing a little bit. He got a site development just to do some like groundwork.
Okay. Eric, is Mark's working toward final plans for metros?
Should be, but I haven't talked to him about it.
Okay. He hasn't had any questions about it. Okay.
No. I don't
And
have
you
anything
said-
else for you guys.
And
Sorry,
you,
yeah, go ahead.
you said you're going to order add Chesson
Yeah,
to the okay, which is a ZBA request. Okay, very good.
I don't have anything else for you guys. Chuck, I know you had a question about continuing on. I'll probably be here into next month now, just working remotely from Buffalo. So
Okay.
till either I find a new position or the town finds a new planner.
Whichever comes first. Huh?
Eric, do any of the applications this morning go to the ECB? Does it look like?
John Casey, Chesson, Batisti, although Batisti, if it's held as a rehearing, it really doesn't need to be re-referred there. Fletcher probably should. I'm sure they would say they want it as a kind of FYI thing, although there's no impact. It is a large open space portion, and I wouldn't think so for Dunster.
Just those three.
Should be four then. Casey, Chesson, Batisti. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Batisti, maybe, maybe not, and Fletcher.
Three, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Got it.
Sorry.
So our next PRC is the 18th January.
Don't
Okay. Very good.
It might be the 11th, actually. So if the
Oh.
deadline is the Wednesday before the second Friday,
January 11th.
Oh, okay. It's before our meeting on the 12th. Okay.
The deadline's the 6th and the meeting's the 11th of January.
all right? Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Have a good Christmas and New Year's, guys.
You too. Stay well.
Hey, everybody.
guys too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, fellas.
And happy Hanukkah for anybody out there.
Yeah.